This is 8.1, Sources of Pollution. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the differences between point and non-point sources of pollution. So we'll do this by describing what we mean by point sources of pollution and non-point sources of pollution. So point source pollution is something that refers to a single identifiable source. So it's something that we can narrow down to one specific thing. Examples of this are wastewater treatment plants, such as we see these effluent pipes right here, which release untreated human sewage, which are high in disease-causing bacteria. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be untreated human sewage, but any wastewater treatment plant could be a point source pollution if there are issues with their water treatment system. Additionally, we have factories which release industrial waste that could contain heavy metals or persistent organic chemicals. An example of this could be particulate matter from coal burning power plant, which is discharged directly from the smokestack. So that is point source pollution. We know exactly where it's coming from. On the other hand, we have non-point source. And non-point source pollutions are things that are diffuse, so they can be really difficult to figure out where it's coming from. Examples of this could be oil and gas from city streets, fertilizer put on cropland, pesticides from cropland, pathogens or nutrients such as the nitrates from animal feedlots. So if we have animals on a farm and we get rainwater or snow melt, they can run off and absorb these pollutants and take them with them, and we're going to get high levels of nitrates in this body of water, which could end up very far away from where it originated. So these are harder to address than point source pollution because it's not necessarily one specific event or one specific location. The oil and gas from city streets can come from many places. So this is why it's important to remember about the things we do in our watershed and all the different activities and the geography of our watershed and how everything we do within that watershed is going to flow down to that body of water and then flow to a different place. So we have lots of different sources of non-point source pollution here, and all of these are contributing to pollution in this waterway and then flowing to a different place. In 1972, the EPA passed the Clean Water Act, which regulates the discharge of pollutants into the nation's surface waters. This includes lakes, rivers, streams, wetlands, and coastal areas. This was really successful in reducing point source pollution, again, because we know where it's coming from, but it did not address non-point source pollution. So to summarize, our goal was to identify differences between point and non-point sources of pollution. Point source pollution is a single identifiable source of a pollutant, such as smokestacks or water discharge pipes, while non-point source pollution is diffused and can be difficult to identify. So as we look in this watershed here, we see that we have non-point sources of pollution from rural homes, city streets, that's our oil and gas, suburban developments, so this could be pesticides, lawn treatments, if you change the oil in your car and spill oil on the ground. Cropland, this is fertilizers, synthetic or natural fertilizers. These are all non-point. Animal feedlots, there's those nitrates from the feedlots going into the water, versus our point source where we see the effluent pipes coming from the factory and the wastewater treatment plant. Point sources, which are much easier to control than our non-point source pollution.